And the Senate with almost no Republican support. Many Republicans say the bill simply spends too much at the cost of future generations. John McCain says the stimulus is a bad beginning for the president. Mr. Obama says stimulus is only part of his plan for economic recovery. On Wednesday, of course, we've been telling you he'll be out in Phoenix outlining his efforts to fight home foreclosures.
All right, instant audit time. Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Wealth Management is with us in studio this morning. You know, as Jenna says, there's certainly criticism of the stimulus plan on the right, people saying it's spending, not stimulus, but also, in fairness, on the left as well, with a number of, prominent economists and others coming out saying we're not spending enough. The president trying to find a middle ground. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think he had to do something. I think I agree more with the right as far as I'd rather have seen more tax cuts than more spending. I'm a little bit worried about what we're doing long term, where, yeah, we may cure this crisis eventually, but what problems are we going to cause down the road? Yeah. Is the cure worse than the illness here?
John McCain, as we said, quote, bad beginning for the president. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I do agree with it to an extent. He did promise a stimulus package. He had to deliver something. Again, I would have rather seen more on the tax cut side, less on the spending side.
Now we have to make the best of what some think is not exactly the best situation, but at the same time, it is what we're dealing with. Will this stimulus plan have the desired effect in terms of generating jobs that we need it to do in the next couple of years?
I'm a little dubious on that. Yeah. I think that we need a lot more to get ourselves out of this. I don't think just kind of throwing some money at the issue is going to fix anything. Maybe it'll help a little bit, but there's a lot more that's going to have to happen.
We have the stimulus plan coming out. You have TARP, also that second tranche of TARP, which now has a new name. We also have a foreclosure plan that's also going to come out on Wednesday. Are you surprised that that foreclosure plan now seems to be a separate entity entirely? It's not wrapped into the stimulus. It's not wrapped into the banking bailout. It's now something else. Do you think that might end up being the most important plan, or what do you make of this foreclosure plan that's going to come out this week?
Yeah, it's a tough issue, but I think it may end up, like you said, being the most important because, again, at the end of the day, it's housing prices and homeowners. If we can fix that area, that's going to go a long way towards fixing what's wrong.
But even that is debatable a lot of times because some people say, well, you should allow these foreclosures to continue because that's part of the quote-unquote healing process that they have to go through that. But if you have a moratorium, as we have on them now, or you put in place measures that the president supposedly will on Wednesday to stop them, you're kind of stopping that healing process from taking place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I think markets work. I don't think the market system is broken. I just think people don't like what the market system is telling them right now. And, yeah, I think, unfortunately, you've got to let things get a little bit worse to get them better.
Yeah, that's the tough kind of bite the bullet, so to speak. All
exactly.
Right. Matthew Tuttle, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We'll be back to you.
Well, the president didn't get everything he wanted out of the stimulus bill. Our very own Rich Edson reports Congress taking some of the bite out of limits on executive pay.
Well, the Senate added strict executive pay limits to the stimulus package. Negotiators weakened some of the provisions late last week, but there still are significant curbs for executive compensation and TARP rule changes in the stimulus bill. These requirements only apply to companies during the time they are in possession of TARP funding. The bill allows the Treasury Secretary to negotiate a reimbursement to the federal government if he determines an executive received excessive pay. The provision prohibits the 5 highest paid employees from receiving golden parachutes. The companies must establish a board compensation committee to review its pay policies. Now, currently, TARP banks can only repay their government loans if they get permission from their primary regulator and replace the TARP funding with private capital. The stimulus bill allows banks to repay as long as they get permission from the primary regulator. There will be no private capital requirement. Once the bank repays the government, Treasury will liquidate the warrants it holds at the current market price. This all goes into effect once President Obama signs the bill. Back to you.
All right, Rich. Rich Edson there in D.C. Now, when trading resumes tomorrow, another thing we're going to keep our eye on is Treasuries. There's been a lot of talk. Wall Street Journal has a piece on it. In fact, the Treasuries may be in for a correction, some sort of a bubble in the Treasury market, while the stimulus bill and other spending programs leading the government to float more bonds. So that did at least on Friday, send the price of treasuries lower and the yields higher. So we'll keep an eye on them.
Oh, well, with one day before a major debt obligation comes due, Sirius XM CEO Mel Karmazin's future is also in doubt. Sirius is in last-minute conversations to get an influx of cash before $175 million in debt matures tomorrow. It's talking with Liberty Media and EchoStar, both of which will reportedly let Karmazin stay on. But if Sirius cannot come up with the dough, it could have to